Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to my first of 3 Movie Monday reviews that I'm going to be doing today. I'm doing 3 of them because I missed one last week and I'm carrying it over to today, so I have to do 2 anyways. But I'm going to do 3 today in case I'm going to mix one next week, and I've already seen a movie that I could do for a third one, and this is that movie. So I figured it just works out. Um, but welcome to the one I'm going to be reviewing today, and it's called Hellfest. Now, I'm assuming you guys know what this movie is, because it's out in theaters right now. It's been advertised everywhere. Um, so I will give you guys the warning that if you've not seen this movie, don't watch this video, because there's going to be spoilers in here. So I've given you that warning, so now you guys can't get mad at me. If I've spoiled the movie for you, because I did warn you guys ahead of time to turn off the video. Um, so let's talk about this movie. This movie was very well advertised compared to the other movies I've seen recently. It's really kind of tough nowadays to consider what movie is well advertised and what movie isn't, considering the fact that a lot of people go on the internet and watch YouTube clips, and that's how people would typically tend to advertise their movie. But in this case, it was actually advertised on television. I thought that was very interesting. I saw this advertised too when I went to um, where did I go? Where did I go? Oh, I went and was earlier this summer and watched a movie, and this movie was one of the trailers that was shown for that movie. So I saw it then. I wanted to see the trailer. The trailer looked awesome. As for the movie itself, that's I'm gonna leave you guys a little bit of a cliffhanger to what I actually thought of this movie. But let's talk about who directed it and all that stuff. This movie was directed by Gregory Poltkin, and it was produced by um, Gail Ann Hurd and Tucker Tolley. And the screenplay was written by Seth M. Sherwood, um, Blair Butler, and Akila Cooper. I hope I'm saying these names right, but if I'm not, whatever. I gotta learn to read, I guess. And the story was written by William Pennick, Christopher Sy, and um, Stephen or Stefan. I don't know how this person says their name. Susko. And the music was done by Bear McCurry, and the cinematography was done by Jose David Montero. It was edited by George Plotkin and David Egan, which I thought was interesting. And the production companies were Tucker Tolley Entertainment and Vahale Motion Pictures, and it was distributed by CBS Films and Longate. And Longate's made a lot of the Saw movies, so that's why I also thought this movie was going to be really good. Um, and this movie came out. I want to make sure I have it right. Um, it actually came out last Friday, September 18th, 2018, but it showed a special preview um, on September 27th, 2018, which is this past Thursday. And it had a budget of $5.5 million. Um, so it had, a lot of money went into this movie. And I'll talk about the box office. The box office, I'll say, will be subject to change as of this video, because the movie just came out. So um, it could either stay the same or it could increase. So yeah, but let's talk about the actual movie itself. Um, and the movie starts off with this girl in the beginning. We don't really know who it is. I do kind of like the way they introduced this movie, where they're actually at Hellfest, and this is obviously during Halloween season. And um, we see a young woman, and if you don't know what Hellfest is, I guess I should explain it. And in the terms of this movie, pretty much it's a Halloween themed poke. There's not a lot of rides on it, but there's a lot of mazes you go through where people will pop out and scare you, and you go through like a lot of haunted houses and stuff. I actually haven't used to go to these types of parks myself, but I haven't been. Um, I think since I was in middle school, or since I was in um a freshman in high school. It's been a while since I've been, but um, but she's going through one of these mazes, and I mentioned there's a young woman, um, and an orange figure, an unknown masked person, which this film and Wikipedia calls the other. I don't know if Wikipedia just called it the other. Um, this person's going through it, and she spots the other, and this person supposedly has been following her all night, and she ends up running away from him, but the other chases her down and ends up um, killing her. Um, I don't remember how. I think he stabbed her in the yeah. I was gonna say he stabbed her because that's typically how Thrasher movies work. And he actually hanged her up into the haunted maze that she was in, as and made it seem like she's one of the props. I actually thought that was quite clever. Um, and I kind of liked this scene a lot because this really did a good job of setting the tone for the movie to kind of give us what this movie was going to be about. I like how as the credits were airing, they were showing um, bits and pieces of this scene, and then we meet the actual main cast, which I'm just gonna say all their names right now. Well, at least yeah, it's pretty much the main cast. It's Natalie, Brooke, and Taylor, and Natalie. Essentially, really nothing happens in the first few scenes. Natalie's going over to Brooke's house for like a sleepover, and Natalie is somebody that they haven't seen a lot of because she's so dedicated to her schoolwork. And if I had to guess how old these kids were, I would say they were probably college students, but I would say probably, I don't think they were newly college students. I would say probably sophomores in college, maybe juniors. Um, but um, I guess Natalie and Taylor don't get along because Taylor is kind of wild and is kind of that pouty girl that likes to do everything, but she's kind of like one of those weird people that dyes her hair and is all about sex and stuff like that and is very outgoing. And while Natalie likes to do the right thing and constantly study, that's why they haven't seen her for this long. And Brooks very I guess I don't want to say flamboyant, but um, that's exactly what I guess I would describe it as. Um, and Natalie and um, pretty much what happens is they find out they get tickets to Hellfest. And Natalie's not dressed prop you know slutty enough for them, so um, they so um, Brooke dresses her up that way, and I guess what I didn't like about this scene was this didn't really establish the characters really all that much. It was just kind of them just going to Hellfest, um, really with no and that's it. Um, but um, they talk about this guy Gavin that's going to be there, who is someone that Natalie likes. Um, so they end up going to Hellfest, and they end up having to go through security and everything like that, and eventually um, they talk about all the fun stuff they're gonna do at Hellfest and all the scary stuff they're gonna hit. And I actually kind of like the way they introduced Hellfest. Now I don't really know um, where this movie was filmed because I'm assuming this was an actual film park. It says it was filmed in Atlanta, Georgia, um, in late February, and it finished on April 13th, 2018. But it doesn't exactly say where this movie was filmed. It just kind of says it just kind of shows it. But um, they but people are trying to scare them, and Natalie meets up with Gavin. They kind of have like a little awkward relationship because they both really like each other. Um, but they won't really come out and say it, and they're acting really awkward towards each other. Um, and they talk about all the, like I said, all the fun stuff they're gonna do. So they go to do one of the ride things and stuff like that. But as all this stuff happens, um, the other approaches, and we knew this was the other because it doesn't show his face and it plays this music like we knew that he was bad news, that he was the killer. And he actually goes through security and he rips out his mask and puts it on himself. And I don't really know what to call this mask. It's just a Halloween mask. We'll just call it not the Halloween, um, you know, John Carpenter's Halloween he made, but a different type of Halloween, just a standard Halloween mask. And we meet this woman. I gotta make sure I get her name right. Um, Brittany, who all the people that work there were trying to scare her, um, and um, of course, there's a bug on my computer and it wouldn't get off. That's why I was doing that. I don't know if you, but um, and none of them are scared of her. So the other bumps into her shoulder and acts all cocky, and the other goes to follow her and he grabs a knife from one of like the concession stands. And I liked this scene a lot. I thought it was really good. I even liked. I guess I should talk about too. What is genius about making a movie like this in a way is this is like the perfect type of horror movie to make because it can scare people into thinking now that um you know what if you were in a situation where someone in the horror park was actually out to get you, um and you and a lot of people would think that it's just part of the show. A lot of people wouldn't really think you are a killer because you're showing up in this world. And the the main cast kind of talk about that. We meet the boyfriends of each of the main cast, or not really so much. Um, Quinn, I believe, was Taylor's boyfriend. Asher was Brooke's boyfriend, and Gavin and Natalie weren't boyfriend and girlfriend yet. Um, but and they talk about that there's these people that constantly live in the Halloween times and come into this world makes it feel like their own. I feel like that was supposed to set the tone of what this movie was going to be about, so that's why I'm mentioning that. But um, Natalie and all the other main cast are in one of the haunted houses or the schoolhouses, and um, they're walking through um, the haunted house, and they end up getting scared of um, people grabbing out at them and stuff like that. They went through like the clown maze, and Gavin scared a clown, so that's why it scared him. But Gavin has a trick where if you look at the people's hands, you can tell which one is real and which one is fake. And Natalie, you can kind of start to see as she's going through this, is kind of starting to become a little bit more outgoing. She's starting to kind of take more chances, and she's not really as scared of these people as you thought she would have been. And she's kind of starting to have like a little bit of an edge to her, just like Taylor. Um, and what ends up happening is Natalie, Taylor, and Brooke all go into a room, and Natalie's been calling out when people are going to jump out at him. And when Natalie goes to call out when the next person's going to jump out at him, nobody comes out. And who do we see? None other than Brittany. Um, Brittany ends up running through the curtain, acting like somebody's chasing her. And there actually was somebody chasing her, was the other. And obviously the fans knew that, but they didn't know that. But I like those kind of moments. And I kind of liked this because it set up the scene perfectly where, Brittany, Natalie was thinking this was all part of the show, but this was a real life situation. And the other pops in and looks at Natalie, and Natalie gives away Brittany's hiding spot because she thinks this is all part of the horror act, or all part of the haunted house. So the other pulls Brittany out, and um, he acts like he's gonna stab her, and Brooke and Taylor leave because they think this is just going to be too gruesome for them. And Brittany dares the other to do this. And I kind of like this because Brittany just thinks this is part of the show and she doesn't realize that the other's actually intending to kill her. So what ends up happening is the other kills her, and this freaks out Natalie because of how gruesome and real it looked. And then she comes out and tells them how that was just really creepy and scary. And then they find out that the other's stalking her, but they continuously think that he's just trying to do his job and scare her because he comes out and does this when he comes out of like the haunted house. And then everybody kind of goes and does their own thing after they've gotten rid of the other multiple times. Brooke talks all tough, like she's gonna take out the other, which everybody probably laughed at because we knew that wasn't gonna happen. And what ends up happening is Brittany, not Brittany, I'm sorry, Natalie. So everyone's playing carnival games, and Gavin's trying to win, um, you know, a stuffed animal for Natalie, but he's just failing big time. And I didn't mention that Gavin got them VIP passes, so they're able to cut in lines and everything. Um, and um, Gavin and Natalie are finally starting to get along. Natalie apologizes for, um, not being there, really not hating out with him as much. And then they go into the photo booth and start taking photos together, and they're being really awkward about it. And the other pops up, and they end up kissing in the photos, and the other steals the photos. And Brooke catches him, so Brooke chases down the other, and the other is nowhere to be found. And the other starts, Brooke starts to get really creeped out, thinking that this is gonna end really badly. So when she leaves, she tries to talk all tough, like she you know like she handled the situation but couldn't get her pictures back. But then when it just showing Natalie, she said that I got scared and bailed. And they're gonna go to the more intense part of the Hellfest, where people actually can grab at you, in you know at, in the poke. So obviously that's where they go. But Gavin wants to stay back because he acts like he has to go to the bathroom, but instead he wants to try to win Natalie that stuffed animal. And I'm just going to talk about everything that happens with Gavin first because it's significant. So he tries to bribe the guy $50 for the stuffed animal, but the guy doesn't want to lose his job. So um, the so what ends up happening is Gavin sees somebody walk out of the lockers with the stuffed animals, and Gavin breaks in and steals them pretty much right out of the locker. And he takes a stuffed animal, and who's there? None other than the other. And I did like this face-to-face confrontation, and Gavin just thinks this guy's taking his job too seriously, and how he's just being really freaky about it. And what ends up happening is the other trips Gavin, and Gavin's like, "What the fuck, man?" And when he goes to get up, the other and he tripped him, by the way, with a rubber mallet that you use for those Texas strength things where you um, hit the platform and it goes up to the bell. I don't know what they called it. And then he ends up hitting him in the throat at the handle the back of the mallet. I couldn't think of the name for a second there. And then he ends up hitting him a second time, and then the other, of course, where's Gavin? None other than right. He's right on that platform with the bell. So the other plays the test of strength, but uses Gavin's head and destroys Gavin's head, and he ends up exploding. And it explodes pretty much like a watermelon. If you would hit a watermelon like that, I don't know if you would. I don't know if that would happen, but I'm just trying to think of the best comparison. And what ends up happening is everybody starts to get worried about Gavin. So, what's her name? Natalie texts Gavin wondering where he is, and since he's already dead, the other takes Gavin's phone out and uses his fingerprint because people have that for their phone to get in and I guess responded something. I guess that he was coming, but pretty much she just gave away their location, not knowing that the other was the one on the receiving end of the text messages. Um, and they end up going to the roller coaster that gets them there. They have to sign a waiver um, because people are getting, touched. And the roller coaster is like one of those roller coasters that pops out and scares you and stuff like that. And then the roller coaster ends up breaking down. And I like this scene a lot. It ends up breaking down, and the other pops up and is intended on killing um, Natalie. And Natalie gets freaked out about this because she realizes that it's the same guy that's been stalking her all night, and she gets freaked out by the roller coaster. But we find out that it was part of the ride because a lot of people are dressed in the same mask that the other's been dressed as the whole night, and um, then you know um, so then they finally get to the um, other part of Hellfest, and it's pretty creepy. Um, what's his name? I think it was Usher. Did I get his name right? Asher, not Usher. Asher. I'm sorry. What's they call Ash for short? Ash. Or it was either Ash or Quinn. I forget which one. Sticks his hand into a body that looks like it's a real body that's been all cut open and stuff, but it's just a prop, and it actually ends up being a real person. But it's they did stuff to make him look that way. They get taken by like these little kids that are dressed up um, in burlap sacks and taken to some sort of maze, which I liked. Um, and then Natalie finds out that Gavin um, is actually trying to win a stuffed animal for her, but so that's where she thinks he's been all this time. And what else happens? And I'm trying to remember what else happened. Um, uh, um, there was a scene where Taylor ended up getting kidnapped by one of the others, which I thought was a nice scene. And then everybody goes into the maze, and they do the typical maze of what you would do when you're at a horror theme park like this. But then when everybody gets separated, Natalie sees the other watching her through the glass of one of the mazes, and he points at her and bangs on the glass and taunts her. So this freaks Natalie out, so she runs away, and she tells her friends about it, and um, you know her friends kind of like believe her, but want to just get out of there. But Asher hasn't come through yet, and what made this movie really done well too is you didn't really know when the other was going to come out because it's a horror theme park. You don't really know what's going to happen. What ends up happening to Asher is um the other grabs some sort of needle that they had as a prop for um the um from the maze, and the other attacks Ash, and um he kills him, and he stabs him right through the eye with the with the needle, which I thought was a nice scene. Um and Natalie is really freaked out by this, and then one of the monsters comes in and gets a ton of goop all over her. She has to go get washed off, and then Natalie and Brooke start talking about this, and Natalie thinks that tonight's been a huge disaster. But she likes the fact that she finally, just kind of is doing things on whim, not just trying to plan everything out. So she just wants to go to Spain. I think it was, or was it France? Well, actually, I guess France is in Spain, but I forget where it was. I think it was Spain, and Brooke's excited about this, and Natalie dries her hair off, and I did like this because when she was drying her hair off, um, the other pops up and touches her hair, and she doesn't notice it. And then when the lights like flicker and she looks up, he's gone. And then she ends up taking a piss and tries to text Gavin where he is. And then she notices his notification goes off, and um, she knows that he's there because the photo booth pictures that her and Gavin took together fall on the ground. So she gets really freaked out about this. She tries to do everything she can to escape from the other, and then she ended up telling the security guard. But pretty much what happens is the security guard doesn't believe in this stuff because um, they came to Hellfest to get scared, and the people are doing their job, and they can't really they can't arrest people for doing their job. And they say that Gavin might be out drunk somewhere. So that was that. I did like this scene as well, because I was looking forward to seeing this scene, and they want to just find Taylor and get out of there, but we find out that Taylor offered to do to act like her head's gonna get cut off. The baker or the bulker, um, and it's not really real. It's all fake. It's a guillotine. The bulker acts like her head's gonna get cut off, and the executioner ends up showing up, and the bulker, is talking about how Taylor has to be punished for her sins, so they put her in the guillotine. And Natalie starts to sense that something isn't right, and we all sensed that something wasn't right because we all had assumed that this was the other, and um, Natalie gets really freaked out about this, but the security stop her before anything can happen. But when Taylor gets her head cut off, we find out that it was a fake head, and Taylor hid underneath the guillotine, her real head. And when the curtain closes, um, you know, um, one of the security guards leaves the executioner to um, get her loose because Natalie's causing a bunch of commotion. And who do we find out the executioner is? None other than the other. He takes off his executioner head headgear and reveals that he's the other. And what ends up happening is Natalie starts to get really freaked out about this because he starts tightening her up really tight, and he sends down the guillotine, um, and it goes right across her neck, and it leaves a huge gash, but it doesn't kill her because it's prop. Um, So she ends up escaping, and the other chases after her, and the other kills her and Quinn, just stabs both of them, and everybody starts to get freaked out, and they start to realize that this is not a joking matter. So everybody tries to escape. Everybody runs away, and they end up closing the pub because there's a psycho that's ready to kill everybody, and Natalie and Brooke run away, and the security tackles down the other, but we found out it wasn't the other. It was actually just another guy that just happened to be wearing the same mask. Um, and we know that he wasn't him because he wasn't wearing the same shoes. The other was wearing a certain type of shoes. So they end up running into a maze, which was like the worst thing they should have done. And um, they end up going into this maze, and the other follows them in there, and pretty much what happens is they try to go through the exit, they hide from the other, and um, when they realize they can't go through the exit, so they have to go through the maze. But when they go through the maze, this trigger um, um, search beams that trigger the noise of like somebody popping out at you, and they have to step over it because if they step on it, then they'll get found out. And this is kind of interesting because normally people are in suspense, scared about the fact that someone's gonna jump out and scare them. Um, this actually a bad thing because you're actually running for your life. So they go through this motion where they grab a weapon and they go through the whole maze, and then there was like a ton of dolls that was in one of the rooms, and the other disguises himself and um, tries to attack Natalie and Brooke, but Natalie is able to fight him off, and Brooke takes off, and Natalie takes off as well, and then they end up reaching a dead end of the maze, So what ends up happening is there's a ton of these doll faces that are disguised, and um, when the other walks in, Natalie disguises herself as one of them and stabs the other. And I forgot to mention the other ended up cutting um, Brooke's leg, so she's walking with a limp. And what ends up happening is the other attacks, gets the upper hand on Natalie when she tells Brooke to leave, and we don't really see what else happens, which was kind of weird. I thought we had assumed that Natalie died, but Brooke's still escaping, and the other's chasing after Brooke, and the other finds Brooke and ends up going over one of the trigger alarms, and when something pops out as if it's gonna scare the other, Natalie pops out with it and stabs the other a couple of times, and they end up escaping the maze, and the police walk in and stuff. And what was weird is that I guess we don't really know what happened to Natalie. Did the other just let her go? Did she end up fighting him off? It would have been nice to actually have seen that, so I didn't like that very much. And when the police search the place, the other we don't see the other. We just see the blood dripping from when he was stabbed. Um, and the police said they haven't been able to find the other. And um, Natalie and Brooke say, "Do you think they'll find him?" They say, "God, I hope so." And then what ends up happening is the other ends up going home, and this is all over the news. And he ends up going home and putting his Halloween mask um, onto the onto a ton of other masks that he has. And we got the twist ending. We find out that the other was actually a father because his daughter was like watching some sort of TV show, um, and we find out, and she says "Daddy," and we find out that he's a dad, and he ends up coming home with the stuffed animal that Gavin was trying to steal from the prize locker. So I liked that. I liked the twist. I thought that was a nice twist. That the killer was that the other was actually a daddy. I thought that was a nice twist. Um, but that's pretty much the movie. Um, as for what I thought about this movie, I thought it was an okay movie. I was disappointed about it because the trailer looked so awesome. I expected this to be an awesome movie, and it just was largely ended up being okay. Um, it just kind of felt like it was just a typical Thrasher film, and it was just largely okay. It really didn't feel all that good and all that special, but it was an okay movie. I liked some of the kills that happened. I liked, but I just think that they really needed something more. I think what kind of sucked about it too, is that the characters really weren't that developed too, and some of the characters didn't come off as very likable, like Taylor, um, and um, Ash and Natalie. Like was likable, but not an intriguing character. So that's that. But that's pretty much um so if I had to give this movie a letter grade, I'm gonna give it a solid C. It was a largely okay movie. Um, and would I recommend it? Probably not. I would probably not recommend this movie. I wouldn't recommend this movie. There's a ton of other movies you can see. It's really weird because I'm a little bit disappointed that this movie wasn't as good as I thought it was gonna be. But sometimes that just happens. So it is what it is. As for how this movie did, like I talked about before in the beginning of the video, the box office may change because this movie's still fairly new, so it could end up going up. And I don't really and if there's gonna be a sequel, it depends on how well it does in the box office too. Um, the box office though, um, opening weekend, it grossed between um, 50 not 50 sorry $5 to $7 million from 2,293 theaters in opening weekend, and the film made $2 million on its first day, including $435,000 from Thursday's preview. And um yeah, so right now the film has 5.1 million, and it's finishing sixth at the box office at the moment. So right now the current box office is $5.1 million. Now that's actually not that bad Actually, that's still pretty good for this movie to make, considering the fact that the budget was $5.5 million, so it's almost exceeded the budget. Um, but I think that could easily change, because like I said, this movie's only been out since last Thursday, really. So that's obviously subject to change, and this movie could have done worse in the box office because I heard this movie was supposed to actually come out the same week that Halloween's coming out. The new Halloween movie coming out, and it's a good thing that didn't happen because the box office wouldn't be very high at all for this movie because of Halloween. So, um, it's still got a few more weeks to do well because Halloween comes out October 19th, and once Halloween comes out, I have a feeling that this movie um, will largely, um, you know, not this movie won't do as well. It will probably um, stay at 5.1 million if it's still there by then. So, whatever. So, as for what the critics thought of it, um, the critics thought about the same thing I did, that it was a largely okay movie. Um, Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 5 out of 10, which is like an average rating. Um, and Cinema Score gave it a C. Um, and Metacritic gave it a 29 out of 100, which is a generally unfavorable review. And as for what the fans thought of it, the DB gave it, I believe, hold on, it went to the one tab. They gave it a 6.1, but like I said, the movie's still new, so that could change. This, um, but a lot of some people gave it eights, sevens, sixes, fives. I don't think there was a 10 on here actually. Some people give it a perfect 10 out of 10. Um, but the lowest I did ones and twos, but the general um rating for the movie that people gave this movie was 7 and 8s. So um they rated it about the same as I did. So yeah, I thought this movie was largely okay. So as for the cast, um let me go over that. The cast really wasn't a very well known cast. Um some of them were pretty well known, some of them weren't. Um so some of them might be getting their first big break into Hollywood, so there you go. Let's talk about the cast. We had Amy Fawzeth, I don't know how to say her last name, played Natalie. Um, Wayne Edwards played Brooke, and she actually has been in some things. She was in 2011, she was in 35 and Tickin'. As for TV shows, she was in a few episodes of The Thundermans, Casey Undercover, um, The Bold and the Beautiful, um, who she had a recurring role in that. And these were all in 2015. And then in 2017, she was in um, 5 episodes of a TV series called Snowfall. And from 2017 to 18, she played um, MacGyver. And then she was nominated for Outstanding um, Younger Actress in a Drama TV Series um, 3 times for um, The Bold and the Beautiful, but never won. Um, and then going through the cast, we had Bex Taylor Claus played Taylor, which I kind of thought that was funny that that's her last name, that's her middle name. And she hasn't been in very many stuff either. She in 2012 she was in Mental Intervention for this is all for movies. 2013 she was in Last Scene. 2014 she was in The Night Is Ours. 2015 she was in Riley and the Last Witch Hunter, and then this year she was in this movie, and I guess she's gonna be in a couple of other movies that I'm not really gonna talk about. So I don't know if they've come out, but Dumpling, Discounted, and Ralph Breaks the Internet. As for TV shows she's been in 2012, she was in Hit Me Up, in an episode of that. 2013, she was in The Killing, and she had a main role, was like 9 episodes. From 2013 to 2015, she was in Arrow, which is the Stephen Amell TV show. 2014, she was in House of Lies, where she had a recurring role. Lon Meyer, which was only in one episode, and she was in an episode of Robot Chicken. And in 2015, she was in The Social Experiment, and she had a recurring role there. The Librarians, um, Glee, and iZombie. And then in 2015 to 2016, she had the main role in the TV series Scream, which I have to watch at some point. And then right now, she's in a TV show called, she has the main role in Voltron, Legendary Defender. I believe I've heard of that. And then she was in 2 episodes of Here and Now this year. And um, then the rest, these next 3 don't have any other movies they've been in or anything. Matt Mercuro played Asher. Robbie, no, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. Christian James played Quinn. Um, Robbie Atel played Gavin, and Tony Todd played the Bulker. This was the guy that was part of the that ran that guillotine thing. He's been in a lot of stuff actually. As for movies he's been in, I'm not gonna name all of them, but um actually this is his entire movie. He's been in a lot of movies. Um, this year he's been in Drive Me to Vegas and Mars. We can Requiem. In 2016 he was in Heads Will Roll. I'm gonna try this. 2017 he was in Zombies. He was in 2015 he was in Frankenstein and Lego DC Comics Superheroes Justice League Attack of the Legion of Doom. Um, then he was in Legend DC Comics the same year as Superheroes Justice League versus Bizarro League. Um, 2013 he was in Kill Her Not Me. 2017 he was in Death House. Hashtag From Jennifer. 2012 he was in Sushi Girl. 2011 he was in Final Destination 5. And then I believe he was in 3 as well. No, he wasn't. And then he was in 2007 he was in Chicago Massacre, Richard Spike. And 2006 he was in The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And he was in 2006 and 2010 he was in the Hatchet franchise 1 and 2. And then he actually was in 2006 in Final Destination 3. I thought I actually was right on that. And then he was also in Final Destination 2 in 2003. And then obviously he was in the first Final Destination in 2000. I don't know if he was in 4, but I haven't gotten that far. I'll just say he was. And then he was in Candyman Day of the Dead in 1999. And then I think he was probably in the original Candyman as well. And he was in The Walk in 1996. He was in Black Fox, the entire franchise, all in 1995. As for TV shows he's been in, he was in the Star Trek Voyager in 1998. He was in an episode of that. CSI Miami in 2002. 24 in 2004. The District in 2000. I just had it. I don't know what I did with it. Oh, 2002 to 2003. Chuck in 2007 to 2011. 24 again in 2009. Stargate SJ/1 in 2005 to 2006. 21 Jump Street in 1987 and Simon and Simon in 1987 as well. His first role, I should always say the actor's first role that they were in, was in 1986. He was in Sleepwalk. And the last role he's been in, I believe, is this recent role. And as for the other cast, that took a while. None of them are well known. Michael Torwick plays the security guard. Courtney Dietz, I don't know if that's how you say that, plays Brittany. Ellie Graham plays the other's daughter. And Unknown plays the other. We don't know who plays them. So I do kind of like that even the actor's a mystery. I have a feeling we'll find out probably eventually. So if they do make another one, I'll probably come back and make another review when that movie comes out. So, but we have to wait and see. But like I said, I'll give my letter grade one last time. This movie was an okay movie. I'm giving it a solid C. And that's pretty much the end of this review. Your thighs, leave your guys' thoughts in the comments of what you thought of this movie if you saw it. And if you didn't see it and you got spoiled, I tried to warn you in the beginning of the video. So yeah, and that's pretty much it, guys. Make sure you guys like, comment, and share this video so people will watch it. Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel for more content and click on the bell so that way every time I upload a video, you guys will get the notifications for it. And make sure you guys do the same thing for my See on Brothers YouTube channel. That's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.